Hey everyone, welcome back to Evony with Genghis. We have a special interview for you today as part of our interview series. This is the five-time undefeated, never lost a match C4WF champs, the R5 of the Alliance. So before we get to you introducing yourself a little bit, is that correct that you've always been C4, or were you at one point C5 as well when you became first-time champs in Chalons?
Hey guys, actually we've always been C4. We've always played on C4, hoping to be C3 next season, but yeah, C4 all the way.
Perfect. So why would you want to be C3? Obviously, because you're just dominating C4, you'd like to move up and get some more competition. But do you think that you guys will be able to handle that well, fit right in?
Yeah, so we're touching around the 360 billion mark as a team. That's the same as the C3 champions WAL. So we want to face bigger teams. Over here, we have a couple of teams that are competing against our 2 or 3 RRR, SOC, but we still want a new challenge. We still want to face people or teams who are at our power level. So, and that would be C3. So we're just looking forward to the challenge.
Awesome. Yeah, C3 is tough. I know I'm C2, kind of mid-age C2, and when we face C3, they are big and have lots of buffs and they're very strong. So one thing I'm very curious about is you guys kind of like just dominated out of nowhere. How's your server makeup? Is it lots of new players that you trained, lots of veterans who moved to the server? Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so basically, the server started just like any other server. There were a couple of alliances, like five different alliances that had players. We were lucky with the amount of coiners we had on our server. So we went through the whole shebang where everyone competes with each other on bosses and fights it out on thrones, and then zeros a couple of players from each other's alliances, and then we got together and finally figured out, okay, we want to be a one team server where we want to actually basically bring all the bigs in, work towards a single goal, and just become a PvP based team rather than a boss killing team or a boss killing server. So basically, that was the goal.
Yeah, I think that's every server's or every PvP alliance's dream to have one alliance on server. I know we fought very, very hard, both in verbal discussions and then a war to try and make it a one team server. So you're looking at here, this is the end of my battlefield. We're getting defeated by one of the better players and alliances on C2. So that's the sort of thing that you would be up against when you guys move up. Um, do you? So a curious question I have. So a while ago, there was another team in your age of servers, DOA, I believe was their name. Were you guys
Yep.
ever in big competition with them before the whole scandal, the pink gems, where they got kind of torn apart?
So our first two Chalons that we played, DOA was against us in the finals. Actually, there were two super coiners on that team, Luigi and Hammercause,
Yeah, Hammer
big
is the one
players.
I remember.
Yeah, and basically we did play them. They were our biggest competition in the first 2 seasons of Chalons, but we ended up beating them as well. But the Pink Gems just killed them. They left, both of them left the game. Their accounts went to very small coiners or non-coiners, and they just died out.
Yeah, so you guys have never been touched by pink gems or anything, right?
Actually, what our biggest player at that time, who then left after Pink Gems, Oliver, who did got hit by Pink Gems, like he got zeroed actually. Uh,
Zeroed.
yeah, he was our biggest player in the first 2 seasons, and then he left, and then he was replaced uh, by Tibbs, who's ex NFG. Like he's played on a couple of servers, then he joined in, and then he built the team with me.
So, how did you guys survive that? Is the keep still in your alliance with someone else owning it?
Yeah, yeah. It's still in the alliance. Someone else is owning it. That's how we survived. Actually, that we made sure that everything gets given back after getting paid for. So the new owner basically paid everything back, whatever the previous owner owed to Evony, and got all the power back. So that's how we survived.
Yeah, I think it's pretty hard to be a top alliance and just lose an account like that. So yeah.
Yep.
So you wanted to talk a little bit about Evony culture and things that have to do with that lifestyle of servers and players, etc. Want to tell me a bit about that?
Yep. So I've started noticing a lot of one or two player servers that are coming up against us, even in SVS. Even in BOG today, we played Frank a lot K45 account, huge sign up power. They matched us at around 280 billion, 270 billion sign up power, and they were just a two-person team. So the every culture has changed a lot, where people are just pointing. They want to play the solo game, and I feel like that's not the right way to go about in the game. It was always a team game. It was always supposed to be a team game, and I don't understand why. If even if you look at their servers, right, there are a couple of players they can bring in their alliance, talk to them, and make a good PvP team, a rallying team, but they still end up going solos and all those things. And I think that's where over time that we have gotten a lot of players from our server or other servers who have understood the meaning behind or the importance behind the team play, and they've joined us and improved our team and grown our team over time, right? So that's what I want to talk about, that Evony should now, every player who looks at YouTube videos, Discords, all these workshops should be looking at making teams rather than going rather than trying to be solo players. Like obviously in the first season, like let's say Neo Matrix won on C6. That's a huge example over here. Now Neo Matrix, that was the first Chalon C6 played as a continent, right? So you can actually win on your own in the first one as well, right? That's what happened on C3, an alliance called ROK1, right? Same, the first K40 in the game, and he played in Chalons at one, right? After that, he just died out. He just couldn't do it. So over time, in the long run, when you're spending so much money, when you're spending so much time on the game, I don't feel like it's the right move or the long-term move to go and be a solo player or just have be a two-key team. Everyone should focus their energies on building their team. Obviously, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of teaching. So I think that's where every culture should head to be, to have a really good community as a team, and to be in one of those top tier games where a game that everyone talks about, right? And that's what's going to improve us. So that's what I wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, I try. That's one of the big selling points I try to tell my server all the time to convince them to team up is that just being part of a team saves you so much money. Because we've had lots of big players. Like our server is now a low coiner server. It used to be a high coiner server, but it was only a couple players who did the coining. So you burn out of spending money. Eventually, you're like, I'm not getting the return of enjoyment in the game, only spending for myself when no one else is helping out because they're not playing together as a team, also.
Yeah. So exactly, I agree, right? If you look at our team in the first two Chalons, all the heavy lifting was being done by three different players, right? They ended up spending a lot on healing packs, a lot on healing, and not actually on their own growth, right? They could improve their boss stuff like that, but they had to focus their energies towards healing themselves in order for us to win. Since then, we have obviously built a couple of good players. Like we have 11 double-figure powered players, three or four touching around 40 billion, 35 billion now, right? So it's like we haven't healed in ages. The funny thing was only one of our teammates actually healed while winning this season of Chalons against EVA and BBC. None of us were healing, and that's what the goal is. That when you become a team, that's what the importance of team building is. When you become a team, you don't actually have the heavy lifting isn't being done by one player. Everyone comes together because you're doing rallies again and again. Not a lot of power is lost. When you become a very good rally team, it's usually counter-attacking or attacking other than being defensive or losing your troops in one single rally by getting hit. So it just becomes a joint effort rather than one person or two-person doing the heavy lifting. And in the end, everyone stops spending a lot, and their spending is focused on improving their bus rather than just healing constantly and trying to win all stars or shalons or that sort of a thing.
Yeah, and there's lots of things you can get for free in the game if you work together as a team. Like Chalons, you guys get 15 red subs every single time for winning.
Yep. So we have 75 different subs from Chalons. We have won five Chalons, so we have 75 subs. They have been passed on depending on what sort of a team it is. So a lot of Egypts were passed. It was a defensive sub. A lot of Egypts were passed down to T1 trap keeps or the players who hold portals, stuff like that, right? So if winning 15 subs every season has improved our team as well. But obviously, it's all down to the team. The team came together, always had a plan on what subs should go to whom to improve our collective buff, stuff like that. It wasn't just like focused on improving one or two players. So exactly the same thing getting reiterated again that being a team is what gets you the good stuff in and plus another thing is, whenever one of us or two of us, last time there were seven of us that went into All Stars, it's never a different sort of feeling where people get into All Stars, they're overwhelmed, overhealed. We play that sort of a battlefield week in, week out. BOG, BOC, Chalons, it's rallies constantly joining fast. So it's just like every other battlefield, even when you go into All Stars. So even as a collective growth, even as a player, you improve a lot when you're playing in a good team.
Okay, so I got two questions from everything you said there. Just wrote them down. So one is the Chalon subs. Do you stack them? Like, do you give one player, say, four of them because it's a really strong ground sub, and maybe it's your player who does a lot of clears, or do you break them down and ascend them?
So we did focus on ascending them because they could only ascend cultural subs when you break them down. But we did stack them up the Egypts for our T1 track keeps who needed a good defensive buffs on portals, who usually face a lot of solos by big players, right? So we did stack them on Hungaries. We did stack them on few of our bigs that had generic ranged attack and generic mounted HP as well. So it all depends on what the sub is, but we have stacked them. But this one, the France one, everyone just took it for themselves. A few of our big coiners who already have a lot of historics just passed it on and gave it to other players, right? Who didn't have space basically. But we do stack them depending on what needs to go where.
Okay, and then another thing I want to ask about your regular battlefield. So like BOC, nonchalons, BOG. Do you ever face tough competition? Do you ever face a good team, someone who can beat you?
Yeah, so in the last few weeks, we have actually faced up with VIG, which is Vipers Alliance, champions of C2. They beat us very easily, right? We weren't expecting VIG to come up, and they did beat us. Usually, it's a very easy win for us. We played an alliance called ELA a few weeks ago, another bigger alliance from us, 450, 460 million alliance from C1. They got beaten easily. So when it's VIG, teams like that, it becomes really tough. We can leak out an SVS facing VIG, PAL, teams like this, right? We went up against BK as well. So the competition and our opponents have become really tough, but it's usually very easy unless it's obviously one of the huge, big, well-known teams.
Yeah. So in your alliance, how many high VIPs do you have? Like 22 plus?
We just have one VIP 23. After that, two VIP 22s, and then it's two VIP 21s, and then rest of them are 19s and 18s. Our highest VIP is 23.
Yeah, I think that's really low for an elite alliance.
So this is what a lot of players, after obviously talking about discords and everything, they just call WDF a very high coining alliance. But if you do come and look at our server levels, it's not that high as compared to the other huge teams who are winning Shalons constantly, right? The coining level hasn't reached, but there's another thing that we do, right? There's separate channel of coiners in our own Discord. We have special coining ways on how to go about their coining, how to diversify their coining. So we tell everyone not to just spend just for the sake of it on event packs. We actually diversify our coining on, let's say, flexible specialities, some packs that improve your buffs on low spend rather than just going for event packs and stuff like this. So we focused on play zones when the play zone deal came in. Everyone improved their play zones very quickly, right? If you look at other teams, they've spent over time a lot of it just to fix their play zones, but we wait for specific deals and then improve our bus collectively. Right, then we keep testing our bus as well on how to improve stuff. Then this is where the team culture comes in. On our Discord weekly, we do this call where we pick up one or two keeps in our alliance. They screen share and we go through all their generals, their debuffs. Right now, one of the biggest or the most important debuff has become siege HP debuff. So we are looking at different gears they already have, different set pieces they already have, and trying to improve their debuffs, what general to go for, and that all depends on what sort of a coiner that person is. We don't have any pressure. We don't pressurize teammates to coin. If they want to, that's their choice. If they don't want to, that's their choice as well. Like for example, in WDF, four of the players who actually won the Chalon sub weren't even VIP 14, right? So that's a huge thing that in our top 50, we have four players who have been working throughout. They're putting in that grind and Evony where they're growing their keys, becoming a keep and track keep, refining by doing different events, right? So all those things come into play.
Yeah, it's one thing I try and talk with my teammates about what packs to coin. Like I look and I see their ideal lands going up, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like the size of player you are, the size of VIP you have to add 250 or 500 march size. You'd be so much better just buying the regular daily event pack and getting seals and Senate and all that sort of stuff, and just going up with your buffs across the board in everything.
Yeah, 100%. And this is what we focused on. When Ideal Land came in, everyone talked to each other about that this is not good value on spend. This requires a lot of high spending, but the return on it is not as good as if you just like obviously if the players like Hippo or players like any VIP 25s who have done seals, Senate, all of that, then it makes sense for them to maybe go for Ideal Land because that's the extra buff or the extra meta that they get out of that. But for players who haven't maxed out all the things, they're still working on it. There's still a huge, there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be done. Then Ideal Land is the right focus, right? Plus, obviously, even the new upgrades, like one of the Senates, they just opened three more slots. One of them gives a good debuff. If you promote it in, like on the first level, it gives 10% on um, yeah, on your attack in battlefield as well. So we told everyone or we asked everyone to focus on that rather than just spending big on getting three or four levels on a specific thing. Then also on the seals, right? Specific levels unlock the bust at the bottom, right? So we had a plan for that as well. That use your seals on getting these busts to upgrade this to basically as a collective team improve our battlefield buffs as well.
Yeah, another one that just drives me crazy is when I see a teammate, they use the general tokens and they get a new general, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm out of fragments. I can only get them to 7 or 8 stars." And it's like, dude, you should wait and only do those tokens if you can get 16 copies.
Yeah. So our number has been around 70, 75 general tokens or more. But we do ask our players to do the same that wait, like obviously every event there's a specific general that has a higher percentage, right? Even if you have that specific, let's say a ground general has come in and you already have a fully ascended, very good ground general, right? So we ask them to wait for them to have at least enough fragments to get it to 10 stars to put it so either to get a secondary march for reinforcement, or even if they're wanting to put them in the Senate so that they can get the best benefits out of the event, because it becomes extremely difficult or expensive to get more copies of them, especially the fourth and fifth star that requires nine in total. To get them later on when the percentage is not good, the chances are not good on getting them.
Yeah, for me, those tokens I'll get one copy just because I think later on in the art hall I'm gonna need it for general hall 3 or 4. But if, other than that, I go 16 or one. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. So, and after this, I'm going to talk a little about so people on WDF they talk to nervous about, you're always winning, you're going to get bored. It's not about that. I believe there are two things that are really important in improving your team in the long run. One of them is obviously winning and gives you motivation to improve, constantly talk. But the second and the most underrated one is right? Everyone tries to become this team that always wants to win, just win SVS. That's not the thing, right? What we have tried over time, a lot of our players, Green, he's one of our big players, Black Sheep's team. What we try and do is try and improve the culture where people are having fun. Like we know each other's spouses, they come online on Discord. We have calls outside the battlefields as well, just to talk it out, right? Even improving each other's keep. Their spouses are on call as well. We're talking, we are having fun, right? We know about each other's life, about each other's work. So if anyone is having a good time, we'll all be there for up for a call, up for a chat, right? So I believe culture is one of the most underrated things in Evony. There, if you look around, right, look at RSP. If you look at their Discord, look at PIG. During battle, they're always having a good time, right? People don't coin a lot, or people don't go big or put that grind in a team where they're not having fun. So culture, I believe, is the one thing that everyone needs to focus on to improve their teams in the long run. Because if people are enjoying themselves, people are having fun, they will have no problem spending or putting in that effort to basically improving your team or improving themselves as players.
Yeah, I agree with that. Two things I want to mention on there. So one is like I was reading a lot of stuff about professional sports team building recently, and not because of Evany, just because I happened to be reading it and was interested. But they said like one of the things that people don't understand, it's not about the sport, it's about the people on the team. When you're putting together the team, you have to have people who are willing to sacrifice, even like the star player, have a little bit worse of stats and rewards for themselves, putting into Evany perspective, but that helps other people feel part of the team. Like in a professional sports, like, oh, I won't go on the court for a couple more minutes, and then the other player gets to play a bit more, and he might try harder because he feels more part of the team and helping out. So similar thing in Evany that you're talking about. But what I wanted to talk about was you mentioned SVS, and it's not about winning SVS as much and ruining your keep just to defend throne or something. I try and say that with my team all the time. It's about having fun. Like, you guys want to make a rally. I understand we might lose, but it's going to help all you guys get points and you're going to have fun and you logged in for this. So, sure, let's go ahead and make this attack that I know might not be that successful. But the guys are all excited and online and want to do it, and it helps to build the team and culture. So, I'm all for that.
Yep. So in SVS, we have regular throw balls. As soon as we know who our opponent is, and if it's an opponent who has one or two big teams and doesn't have the lateral buffs, we will try and go for the throne because it's fun. Then stacking the throne in usually gives 10 or 12 of our players enough points for the sake of it, because people mostly just stay in bubbles. It's hard to score points. There's a Senate requirement now as well. Plus, obviously, the BOA, the gems help as well, right? But we don't stop our small players. Our best SVS player is Than, a Vietnamese player, T1 track keep, who just has these Excel sheets going in. He scouts everyone's bubble right at the start, and this Excel sheet. And every time a ticker is going and he knows a bubble is about to drop, he'll be there and he'll be hitting. So there's no stopping anyone if they want to go. Obviously, on our server, we talk against, or we don't. We discourage suicides, as in just you getting yourself zeroed to get BOA or to get playing stuff like that. We don't believe in those things. We usually don't let people take throne after that, right? But other than that, we let everyone play, even for rallies, even for stuff. But obviously, it's a learning curve as well. We defended our throne against VIG last SVS. One of our players got zeroed, but that player was someone that could heal very easily and had enough souls as well. So a lot of work goes behind this. That before every throne war, we do discuss how many souls do we have, how many sources of life do we have. People who are low on sources of life, we are like, okay, you guys stay out of it, right? Just stay on the server. Let us go over there. Whoever has enough skills can play, whoever can heal easily. But just for the sake of winning SVS, we won't sacrifice a player who's low on souls and have a permanent damage on our team. Right? That doesn't make sense. So it's that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm always saying that too. Like, if you have no souls, don't play. It's not worth ruining your keep to defend throne. It's okay if we lose throne. It's not a big deal. So one thing I wanted to ask about too. Obviously, you guys are one of the top alliances. Recruiting players to come to your server. How do you go about it? Do you feel competition with other big alliances who are recruiting them? Is there like a, like, oh, I hear that guy's available, that guy's looking to switch keeps, and then is it like a race to try and get that guy to your server against other top servers? Go ahead.
So yeah, it's always a race against RSP is always recruiting, VIG is always recruiting, and they're solid teams. Obviously, they're the kind of team everyone would want to go to, right? So there's always a competition. People are looking in all the discords. Everyone's part of the C3, C4, C5, C2 discords, even the new C6 discords as well, right? So every time a player comes and they talk about selling their keys, right? That competition starts. Okay, this player is a huge coiner, or this player was a good player. He was top 10 in All Stars. I played with him in All Stars, so that sort of a thing, right? But recruitment is a bit different. So recruitment is for our team. We find a match to the culture, right? Anyone who comes in and be a solo player, even like a lot of VIP 25s have reached out and asked us if they can join the team. That sort of a culture we don't promote, right? So for recruiting, a match with our culture is very, very, very important, right? The second thing is that we sell the importance of teamwork and the importance of playing that way. So what we do is we ask people to fill in keeps, come and see our cultures, see how we play battlefield so that they can get an idea of how we do things. Anyone who has fun, anyone who likes can easily join. Obviously, a lot of players in Evony with the huge paywalls on almost everything now. A lot of players just decide to leave. A lot of players just decide that it's over for them. They don't want to coin anymore. They want to focus on real life, all those things, right? So in the end, what they do is they try and sell their keep. So we try and bring in players who will match the idea of having a world-class battlefield team. But 100%, any big player that comes in or wants to join a team or posts somewhere, all the huge teams will be competing against each other to get that player.
So when you recruit, is time zones an important thing?
So one of the first questions anyone who comes in asks that what battlefield time do you play, right? So obviously we have different battlefield times, but we have a lot of Europeans, Americans, mostly English speaking players, so we play time three, right? But we have decided to switch it up for players who it doesn't suit us for players, so we have done time seven as well. So it's never a thing. It's always a Discord poll that goes out on our own server. People say what time they can play, and we decide the time that most of the players can play. Same goes for Throne War. There's always a Discord event. People can say yes or no to it, right? So obviously, timing is the first question anyone asks before joining our team or when they're interested in joining our team.
Yeah, same thing. I won't let anyone join who's not in our battlefield time zone because they'll just end up going to another alliance on server, and then it defeats the whole thing we tried to do, which was create a one alliance server. So
Yep.
one thing I actually find it really funny when I see recruitment ads from certain alliances, and there's like three or four who do this all the time, and in their thing, it's always like K40 or K39 that has all the speeds and tons of help with resources available to get you to K44. Okay, so where was that help before? Why isn't it K44 if that's your advertisement?
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of teams oversell the idea of keep. I believe, personally believe everyone should be realistic. The help comes in, obviously, with boss running, big accounts being in your alliance, the help comes in, right? But I believe our selling idea or our recruitment idea is always selling the culture of the team or where the team stands as a whole rather than overselling the idea of upgrading your keep very quickly. Because everyone needs to understand going to K44, 43, 42 has a huge grind. It has a huge paywall as well going that fast. Obviously, there's help calls, there's help with even prioritizing players for resources as well, right? But in the end, I don't think anyone should be underselling or basically trying to convince people that it's going to be easy. You need to make sure that the person understands or is ready to make an effort going to K44, because if they come in with the idea that okay, I'll get all the help, it will be very easy going to K44, they can easily get really frustrated and leave even leave the alliance, leave the or just become a player who's not growing at all, motivated, and then you lose one whole keep for your rally team.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Like people have to have realistic expectations of that. So where do you come into with long term planning? What's the biggest keep on your server?
So our biggest keep is Tibbs. He's around 45 and a half, 46 billion power.
Okay, so
The second one
perfect.
is
So
around
that's like
35,
my
the third
size.
34, then another 30, around the 30 billion. So we are focusing on lateral buffs right now to improving our players. Like, for example, a few of our players were still 8, 9 bills, they went to 11, 12 bills. So we are focusing on lateral buffs and improving their game rather than just focusing on a big player, because we our long-term planning was always that we have 12 players with Red Wings right now, right? We want to get maybe six more in the next two seasons. So it's always one player that we focus on. Like when we zero the other team and B or C, that's the player that's going to take all the buildings, and we're going to reinforce him so that he can get Red Wings. So our long-term focus is first improving, getting players with Red Wings, improving our lateral bus as well. Around 16 players with at least 10 billion plus power. We are already throwing 75, 76 million rallies, all four troop types, except ground. But we want to be like one of our players is near 45, so they'll be improving their war hall. Our plan is to be able to drop 90, 92 million rallies the next few months. The long term goal is obviously, see, when you're putting in this much effort, the only way forward is you trying to compete with the best, right? So our long term planning will always be to compete against VLG, HOD, and RS.
Yeah, so long term planning in terms of that, I'm 49 billion, so basically the same size as your top keep. So perfect topic. Where do you come into how many troops should that person get before they push to K45? Because K45, from going from 44 to 45, you can basically decide, hey, do I want 40 billion power or do I want to just go to K45?
Okay. So the player who's actually focusing on K45, the one thing that everyone needs to understand is that the primary rally setter also needs to focus on improving his rally size as well. That's what obviously improves you as a team. That's what zeros 12, 13, 14 million players in one hit, right? So going to K45 also brings in the opportunity to get ball all to 45 as well, improve the rally capacity, plus improvement on their bus as well, on their D bus, because the rally set is D bus on size, right? So MA10, obviously people who went to K44 have MA9 done. Their coining has saved up a lot of tactics rolls, so they want to get MA10 as well, right? Plus a lot of one thing that people are underestimating nowadays is the new All-Star track, right? It gives, even if you have 45, 46 million troops, one needs to understand that you can actually hit 20% of your troops within battle, right? So that's another added thing that people need to inculcate. Okay, there's a new dragon that we can heal from, right? Then there are medical dens, right? So there's not a lot of healing going on. But as I said, right now we're focusing on lateral buffs rather than just pushing one player in. Like for example, if Ilf decides or Cream decides to go from 35 billion or 45 billion to 60 billion, they can obviously do it, right? But the thing is that will improve our sign-up power, and that will become a very bad battlefield experience for our K40s, K41s, K42s, or even lower, the demon trap keys, because then we're going to be facing 45s or the huge big teams that are going to destroy them in one hit or something. Right? We don't want that. It's a growth process where everyone should feel like whatever effort they're putting in is amounting to something. So we don't want to add to that sign up power before we have that lateral power to be able to defend ourselves. Like for example, if Tips goes to 70 billion, our 15th biggest player should be able to defend rallies from the biggest team in the game, right? So that's our goal right now. That improve our bust, improve our lateral power, and once that's done, we're going to push the top 3 or 4 players to, let's say, 60, 65, 70 billion.
Yeah, that's what I did too. I'm doing Warhol Embassy, get all that to 44 first, then I'll start to push the other buildings because those ones actually have a value as they go up each level.
Yep.
Where if you do
Um,
barracks, stables, like you're 43, that's not much different than 40 or 41.
yeah. So being going to K45 alone is a huge RSS commitment because you have to take all barracks to 45. Your stable 44. Your stables need to be 44. Your archer camp needs to be 44. Your workshop needs to be 44. Your barracks need to be 44. So that is around 7.5 trillion RSS that you need just to get from 44 to 45. That is a lot of planning, that is a lot of effort, a lot of cost running that comes into play. Yes. From that, would you be able to get 20, 25 billion power? 100% you would. So it all depends on where you stand as a team. If, let's say, obviously, now if you look at VIG, they already have a 45, right? So in Viper has already gone to 45. They're dropping 90 million rallies easily, and that's what it amounts to, right? Their goal is to win All Stars. They have a huge war hall. Their goal is also to win every Chalons. Their goal is to win every battlefield, and they want to do it as soon as possible, right? So they want to drop big rallies. So that's what they're focusing on as well. But I do get your point where people need to prioritize, but our priority is as a rally team is to improve our rally size.
Yeah, the bigger teams have a. It's almost a in their interest to focus on one player to get them to 45 so they have those 16s in the rally to take up another layer, affect the opponent troops focusing on them, plus the rally hall and all that sort of stuff. So it's worth it for really elite teams to push one keep to 45 and then another and focus like that. But you have
Yeah.
to have a long-term plan where, hey, we play together for years, so this is worth it, because it's hard to get people to sacrifice and say, well, I'm going to be stuck at 12 billion and K40 for 6 months because I'm helping you guys.
Yep, 100%. And that's what we talk about as well. We already know each other's plans. There's a section on our Discord where everyone has put in their plans on where they want to be a month later or before Shalons or before All Stars or for this POC, right? And we do focus on individual keeps as well, but obviously the greater good is prioritized. For teams that are dropping 40, 45 million rallies, pushing one player to 45 doesn't make any sense. You would improve your team, stuff like that. But for teams like us who are dropping 75, 76 million rallies, and we have, like, it's always red. Our rally capacity is always red. We're filling our rallies up. So it makes sense for us to go for a bigger rally size as well. And that's why Tibbs also focused on amplifying his the gear that had a set attribute of giving rally capacity as well. Right? So it all depends on where you stand as a team and how much you're filling in a rally.
Yeah, so one thing you mentioned quite a bit earlier ago was C5 and the number of K45s they have, Neo Matrix, the solo style they play. What do you think of all that? Those K45s down there, they are very strong, very fast, but limited servers, seem to be one player servers.
Yeah, so Neo Matrix actually went to E6. Uh, Other than that, there's a guy called Fahad. I saw a couple of K45. Someone was telling me that C5 has the most K45
That's
actually,
what I heard
and
too.
that's what I was seeing. But in the end, the point I was trying to make about the team play, if you look at C5, there's an alliance called EPK that one, right?
Yep.
That's a team with not one player. That's again a team. Out of the top 10, four of them were teams. The top four out of 16 were teams, right? So these players are going to end up, obviously, there's a rush. You start spending bigger buffs, growing a lot, beating a lot of players, and then this rush comes in. Okay, I'm doing really good. But sooner or later, they're gonna realize, okay, I spent money on the wrong thing because I should have gone for a team because this is getting boring because it's the same thing again and again. And that's why a lot of C5 coiners went and joined C1 and C2 teams as well, including Geek as well, who joined VIG.
So, what do you think of this? You remember DOA? We talked about them before. Now they got decimated by pink gems because they were all cheating and doing pink gems, and they just quit afterwards. But one thing they were doing before that was they were team coining. So they would pool their money together, even though they're only spending like 10% of everybody else. So it might be easier to do, but they would coin other people's accounts, not just the top accounts, and win red subs for other people and get the buffs up across the boards.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Even with that, there's a huge problem of uh, long-term goals, right? So there are two players who are really rich. Okay, money is not a problem for them. It was very obvious, right? But when heavy lifting does not belong or does not come down to 10 or 12 players coming up with strategies, coming up with everything, and it's all two players doing everything in and again, they're going to burn out very, very quickly. So it's a good approach. Like, let's say a lot of people cannot afford to coin. That's okay, right? A lot of people have different backgrounds. That's completely fine. Some players decided to help them with coining, improve their keeps, right? But here's the thing: how much would you coin for another player? There are obviously 25 players that go to Chalons. You have two players, maybe two coiners, let's say. But are you going to coin and are you going to coin them enough? So here's the thing: people think putting in $150 every event that's going to improve their keep. We all know it's not, because usually all your spending becomes obsolete in 3 to 4 months, right? So in the end, they will get burned out like they did. They were actually very frustrated on the game even before the pink gems happened, right? And then the pink gems happened. They decided that okay, we are done. We're gonna leave the game, right? So again, I say it's the team thing. It's a culture thing where you're coming together and helping improve everything. And no, not a single or two people are okay. We do the heavy lifting. We want to do every work. Then they can focus on real life as well if they had an actual team who's going on. Like, see, every person who's a huge coiner is also successful. They're working hard. They have a real life. They have families, right? If one or two people start the heavy lifting, they're going to be focusing only on the game. And that's a max time period of 1 year, maybe 14, 15 months. Where people will take it and then they would be like, okay, we're done. We cannot do this because they'll get burnt out. So in the end, this strategy will never work. It has never worked and it will never work. You can look around the top alliances, it wasn't like that. Even look at HOT, right? Kingster coining like crazy, all the 25 account. Hot was like beating everyone, but it got bored. It sold a lot of keys. Then Paymon and these guys are here, right? They can't win Chalons now. They regularly get beaten by VIG and us on in SVS as well. Like a few of them left as well, right? So it's exactly that. A lot of people have tried doing that, but it has never been successful.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I hate coining my own account, yet alone someone else's.
Yeah.
And my alts, like I can't even coin them. Like I refuse. I used to, and then Evony took too much resources away from them, and I just said, you know what? I get what I get from them now. I'm not spending any more when I can't control the punishment of what's gonna happen. Like they're taking stuff I paid for. They're taking gems and resources. You could easily Evony could easily just turn down the payment because they know it comes from the same IP address, but they accept the payment, then confiscate the goods. So to me, I'm just like, yeah, I will not coin those accounts ever again.
Yeah. I 100% see. There's no making sense of what this game decides and what they decide to do. There's no logic behind what's getting wiped, right, or getting deleted or getting banned, because a lot of people over time said, oh, okay, if you change IP addresses, that's going to get fixed. It doesn't. Or if you burn their troops or kill their troops, it doesn't. All of them have gotten wiped. People have gotten recruited. Servers, a lot of things have been wiped as well over time, right? So there's no sense of why they do and what they do. But honestly, if you look all around in strategy games and games like Event, right, you're going to notice one thing, that a lot of, actually most of them allow odds, allow these resources because they want to create an environment where everyone is putting in that effort, because you need that balance in the game to work through this, right? Huge coiners who don't have a good culture in their team, who don't have small players who are going to take portals, they're going to die out. You can actually convince a lot of players to stay and a lot of players to coin even more by letting this stay. I don't believe there's a logic behind them deleting anything, right? But we all know that they want money, but as soon as they know you're saving money from something, they're going to delete it or find a loophole. Just like in emails, there's safe RSS. I'm pretty sure that's going to come out for warlords and witches as well, and then to all
Yeah,
bots.
for every boss, there's going to be safe resources at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of takes out that sort of thing where 10 to 20 players in every team or every server thought that they could compete with the big names, the big guns or the big coiners of the server, and slowly they're taking that away. A lot of our players, even the players who were put in the grind for 2, 3 hours every day, building their keeps up, are like, we can't compete, we can't take a solo. 6 to 7 billion players are getting solo zeroed by K45s, right? So that sort of thing where you need a good gaming culture as well is really required, and I think everything is horribly wrong. Some of the stuff, like let's say the Napoleon event, the assistants coming out, the flexible specialities, these are good because you can get battle tested once per year, and then there's the coining thing. Right? But when you do stuff that takes 60 to 70% of the players totally out of the game and just focuses on the 1% that's playing big, that really ruins the gaming experience for everyone. So I do believe they need to work on that.
Yeah, I do think so. I do think Evany's done. You brought up a good point with the battle tested. They've done a good job of coming back to let people grind a little bit and get like a low quality of what someone would pay money for. So they don't get the full experience, but they get a little bit of it. So I do commend them for that. The game still is a little bit top heavy on spending, but they brought it back a bit. So your server, have you guys been affected a lot by family members being taken away by Evony
Actually, we lost, I think, close to 100.
accounts? 100
Uh,
accounts?
yeah, 100
Yeah,
accounts.
I think
They
every
had
server
multiple
is just the same.
areas as well, and some of actual players got zeroed as well. So I don't know what the logic is, but we were affected.
So some people think that the logic behind it is either someone on their server was doing chargebacks, or you had not you, but any server had like resource sellers, let's say.
So I believe almost every server has resource sellers. Maybe 95% do. Everywhere I look around, everywhere the SVS that come against us, the people we're talking to, all have RSS sellers because there's no one who's calling them, right? People want money. There are a lot of RSS sellers, especially the Vietnamese who know the game inside out and can run these sort of RSS selling alliances, right? But like I said, like in our team, there are no chargebacks, right? But still, there's for some reason we lost a lot of accounts, right? I can't figure out what the logic is. A lot of people are coming up with ideas, RSS sellers, different IPs, right? We have tried and tested everything, and somehow everything still gets deleted or wiped. So I really don't think there's a logic behind it.
Yeah, we've kind of got rid of all our resource sellers. They're pretty much all gone now because we're a low coining server and there's no one buying. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. We haven't been touched by Evony in a while. We also got rid of a large player who used to do chargebacks, and he's gone now. So maybe that is it, but maybe it's just, you know, they got tired of punishing us so often. Who knows? Okay, so anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Yeah. So a question to you, right? So you're like you said, you're a low coining server, right? What sort of goals do you have? Like our goal is very simple. We want to compete with the best of them, right? So one question that I did have all around, I've been talking to a lot of players. A lot of players. I did a workshop on C5 Discord as well. I've been asking them what sort of goals do they have because they're spending the same time as we are as well on the game, right? So, what's your long-term goal as a team or even as a player?
So our long-term goal is number one, have fun. Don't spend too much because we see that we're not overly competitive at the moment. It's sad because before the K45 update, we were winning Battlefield probably like 75% of the time, and now it's just maybe 10%. Maybe once a month, Evony throws us a weak C1 opponent. Other than that, we just get crushed. So our goal right now, I believe we have set up our server perfectly for a merge. Like we literally are like a 10-person server, all in one alliance, and we're ready for a merge. And it's just grow, kill all the bosses, and wait for that. And we know that we might be waiting half a year or more. But that's it. Just individually grow, all stars, do our best, try and improve and keep up to date with the updates that come up so that our keeps don't fall behind. But realistically, that's it. Small group, get ready for a merge. Email Evony every day. I could show you my customer service emails every day. I just wrote them in Battlefield today. Even just to keep reminding them, letting them know that 4:30 needs a merge.
Yeah, and honestly, that's in the end, that's the fundamental thing behind enjoying any sort of game, right? If you're having fun, if you're content with what you have, that's the whole thing, right? Uh, Obviously, like you said, setting yourself for a merge is the right move. Like you said in a lot of your videos as well, buying into a keep is much better than coining a whole keep from ground up, right? It's exactly like that. Setting yourself up for a merge is the right move, right? So the point being, do you guys push each other for all stars? Like make sure that if one of the players in the battlefield has enough points, let's let the other players solo a bit or stuff like that, or let's take a few defenses, that sort of a thing.
Yeah, like you could see here, you could see my screen, right? The
Yeah, yeah, I
So
can.
our alliance power, basically, everybody is in one alliance, and this is skewed because it's not updated after Battlefield, so it's actually a really bad example. I just
Uh-huh.
posted up there. See if our membership is more accurate there. Yeah, so there you can see the 40s and 20, 30 billion players all in one alliance. Probably like 14 of the top 15 keeps all in the one alliance. And we're just ready for a merge and we just have fun. We try and do little things in SVS to get people rewards. Battlefield, we try to push people to all stars. Like for a not very competitive alliance, we do get about 8 people in all stars, 3 in the highest level one, and 2 of us make finals. So we have good players. And I would love to drop down and be the third best player in an alliance and be part of something really good. But we've tried so hard on server, we just can't build it with the players on server anymore. Like there's just no money being spent, and we have too much power for the matchups we draw, and there's no way to get around that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's pretty good that you're getting so many players in for us. Before I before we wrap this up, right? I'd like to give one tip to everyone all around Evony, anyone who's in the leadership team, right? If you look at our hive, like WDF hive, there are 5 small keys right in there. The reason for that is they have over time worked really hard on Chalons. They've won subs, they've taken portals, they've done what their duties were in the battlefield, like the best possible way, right? So we give them this leadership positions. They have a say in the alliance as well. So it's usually when look around, anyone who's a huge coiner, big keep, right? These guys are the R4s, right? You need to over time uh, actually recognize these players, give them what they deserve as well. Because these players do still represent most of the players on the server, right? Their goals, the way they build it, is something that needs a say. That while deciding something for yourself as an alliance, as a team, you also know what the low pointers or non pointers are doing as well, right? So that sort of a thing is really important in terms of recognition, making our foes even a spot in the alliance. that really, really helps.
Yeah, I agree. Our fours are a mix of very active smaller players and people who need to be there for the removal of family members to because it's just annoying to, hey, can you remove these 7 keeps and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah,
100%.
I agree completely that rewarding smaller players for being active and helping out and being online, even if it's just a social thing, like it's important to have social players who come on and just say hi, talk a little bit, that share some monsters. That's important. You need that in an alliance. You can't just have a dead alliance where all you do is auto set rallies 24 hours a day. You don't have the social growth and people just lose interest over time.
Yep.
Okay, well, thanks so much for the interview. And anyone who's interested in joining an elite alliance, I would definitely say WDF is one of the ones to join. And just another thing for people to think about, like if you're going to think about joining WDF C4 or C2, you're probably going to have a lot more long-term fun joining the newer server because just a lot more fun things happen on C4, 5, and 6 compared to C1 and 2. You also get the benefit of better packs for your growth because Evony does favor newer servers.
Yep. And here's the thing. There's another thing about being the best. Like there's no more growth. You're still the best, and that's what you're repeating as well. For newer servers, especially a team like ours, there's still a lot more growth to go. There's still like 6, 7 alliances, GOT, HOT, RSP, BIG. We're bigger. It beat us in a regular battlefield right now. So having that sort of energy or that sort of effort put in to get together and beat these players as well. So there's a lot of motivation that goes into this as well, right? So yeah.
All right. So thanks so much for the interview and like, subscribe, leave a comment.